this very different and very strange year, or at least the last 9 weeks have been very strange. I had wanted this to be a senior chapel, and so I have two seniors today that have volunteered to speak first. I think they're each going to speak for about 45 minutes. You guys will hang on, won't you? You're going to hang on that whole time for us. And then I'll speak the last couple of minutes. So Garrett Lambes and Sammy Swenson are two of the outstanding young men in our senior class. They fulfill really well, I think, the commission that the Lord, that Peter gave us in 1 Peter 3:15, where he said, be ready always to give an answer to any man for the hope that's within you. So these two guys are outspoken Christians, and I'm very blessed to have them speak to you all this morning. I'm not sure who's going first. Is it Garrett first? Garrett, you may proceed.
All right. So can you guys hear me all right? I think, yeah. So as you all know, I'm a senior here, and this time has been kind of tough for me because I didn't really expect my senior year to end this way. Just a lot of unforeseen things happening. And I'd like to just quickly share with you guys what God has been teaching me during this time, and then also just give you guys a challenge for the rest of the year and then into the next school year. So during this time of the virus, there's been a lot of uncertainty and many people saying all kinds of things. You don't really know who to believe, when this is going to end, what's going to happen next. Will I get sick? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And this has been especially tough for me because when all this started a couple months ago, I didn't really know what was going to happen next, if I'd be able to go back to school and see my friends, go on senior trip, just so many different things up in the air. But as time went on, God showed me that I didn't need to know everything about what was happening. I didn't need to know, all the answers to the questions that I had. And yes, it's still good to have an awareness of, what's happening and how to keep yourself and others safe during this time. But, our mission shouldn't be to know every detail of what's happening and what you think is going to happen next. Our mission should be to, take a step back, to trust God and, let him do the rest by just following his plan. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. His plans are to prosper us and give us a hope, not to hurt us. And he knows the plans for us that he has during this time. And all we have to do is just place our trust in him. He has a plan, he has control, and nothing surprises him, not even this virus. And this should be comforting to us because, he's there for us during this time, and we just have to put our trust in him. And when I decided to, worry less about everything that was happening and really trust in God, I just had a peace about everything, and I was calmed down and just, knowing that God is just in control of this whole situation. He knows everything, what's going to happen in an hour, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in a few months. And the challenge is that we just need to take a step back and humble ourselves before the Lord and place our trust in him and his plans for our lives. And as humans, this really isn't, the easiest thing for us because, we like to be in control of what's happening. I'm just challenging you guys to, let God take the driver's seat in your life and just let him do the rest by following his plan. And this is, the first part of the challenge that I have for you guys today. And the second part is that, during this time, use it as a time to grow closer to him, spend some time in his word, pray, start a devotional, just do things that are just furthering your relationship with him. And when you guys do get a chance to go back to school next year, use what he's taught you during this time to further his kingdom, share it with others, be a Christ-like example throughout the school. And especially you juniors, if there's any of you in here, just a quick message for you guys. You guys are going to be seniors next year. It's a big deal because everyone in the school looks up to you. And I just challenge you juniors next year to just be a Christ-like example throughout the school and just let God help you lead the school. Ask him for wisdom and guidance throughout. And just summing it up, the two challenges I have are to trust in the plans of the Lord and grow closer to him and use it to further his kingdom. I just want to leave you with a verse. It's Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Remember not to lean on your own understanding during this time, but to just place your trust in God with all your heart, because he has a great plan for your life, and it plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And that's all I have. So thanks for letting me speak.
All right, so also I'm another senior from the 2020 class, and I just wanted to share with you guys today a short part of my testimony and also a little about my recent trip back to my home country, which I really would love have to do at school during chapel. But since we're not able to do that and time is short, I'll do my best in sharing what I have prepared under 10 minutes. So my main point to get across is to show you guys how great and big our God is, and how we cannot be ashamed to proclaim his word to others, and how we can also run to him at any time of trouble and feel safe. So just jumping into my testimony now, a lot of you guys are aware that I was raised most of my life in Ethiopia, and that I lived in an orphanage for about 5 to 6 years before being adopted by my wonderful and Christ-loving family. And growing in the orphanage wasn't the best thing, but also wasn't the worst thing. I mean, I enjoyed playing soccer every day and doing whatever we wanted to as kids. And it didn't really bother me until I noticed some of my friends slowly leaving. And I was wondering, when is it going to be my turn? So as I grew older and older, I began to start noticing, like I said, my friends slowly getting adopted and leaving. And I want to be the next kid. And after living there about 3 years, I was adopted by a Mormon family. And I remember being so happy and thanking God for giving me a family every single night. And I was thinking to myself, it's my time to leave now. But then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but paperwork fell through and I was back to being an orphan. And at that time, I had no idea what to think, because I was like, why would God do this? And I didn't understand like why this happened. And looking back right now, and myself, I'm very, very glad that the Lord pulled me out of that situation and put me into a family where I'll grow to know him and give him the glory. It amazes me how God can do these things suddenly and change the life of someone completely. And knowing what I know today, there's no one who I can say helped me to get through this and made it possible to change my life around, so I would be here in America sharing with you guys my testimony, which is given to me by God. And it can only be done through the power and the will of the Almighty. And Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And just looking at that verse, it kind of reminded me that even though in that time I was unsure and I didn't know what to do, the Lord still followed through with his plan, and he didn't give up on me. And that was just, I really, really look back to that, and it was an awesome moment. And then this past summer, my mom and I went to Ethiopia for about 3 weeks. It was the first trip back home since I've been here in America for about 6 years. And during my trip back, I was able to visit my uncle and his family, who raised me as their own before I went to the orphanage. And I was also able to see the orphanage that I grew up at. And the orphanage is still there today, but is ran by a different organization. And I was also able to reach out to a couple of my friends that were not able to get adopted in time before adoption was shut down all across Ethiopia, which was really sad. And it was really an unforgettable time. And I had sitting among some of my friends, and we were sharing some memories as kids. And even though that might seem like the best part of my trip, it really wasn't even close to what the Lord had prepared for me. And after staying there about a week, my aunt told us that it was time for us to go to visit my biological family and the place where I was born. So after the 12-hour trip on a bus, we arrived at the village where I was born before I was living with my aunt in the capital. And there I was reunited with my little sister, Hayat. And also I got to see my 2 aunts, 2 uncles, and my grandma, who's now taking care of my little sister along with one of my uncles. And I was just seeing this, I was overwhelmed by joy and just seeing my baby sister and the rest of my family. And I was just really, really happy to be surrounded by them and just be around them. But one thing that made me sad, and this also it made me and my mom sad really, was seeing that all of them were Muslims except my aunt that was with me in the capital that brought me to this place. And in my time of visiting my village, the Lord just kept reminding me to look at myself and to see where he has brought me to, and how even in the midst of what seemed uncomfortable and messy for me, he is in control. Like Garrett said earlier, in this time of craziness, he's still in control. And I was able to just remember that over and over, and that kind of helped me get through those thoughts that were going through my head of what's going to happen to my sister, what's going to happen to my family. And a verse that can relate to that is Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which suppresses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So it wasn't my place to worry, because God is in control and he knows what he's doing. So another part of my trip that really, really stuck with me was my grandma's reaction to us. So before our trip to my village, my aunt wanted to get some clothes and some few groceries for my grandma as a gift. And I wish I could have showed you guys like a video of the reaction that my grandma had when we got her a new pair of shoes and a dress, and she was just jumping up and she was just so excited, and it was just very heartwarming. And then we also were able to get my little sister, my aunt took her to the market the next day after we got there, and she also got her new clothes, new shoes, and it was just awesome moment. And every day we were there, we came to the house in the morning and played games and did handcrafts, coloring books, and anything we could do for my cousins and my sister and the neighbor kids. So one specific afternoon, though, I remember hearing my grandma asking my aunt, "Why are we doing this?" And she didn't seem to understand why we were so nice and we were willing to come back and do these things for her and her family. So afterwards, I was talking with my oldest cousin, who I grew up with, and she explained to me that she said grandma's that way because she and her whole family grew up in a strict Muslim group, and Christians in her world are seen as the enemy of this world. And she was confused because she knew that we were Christians. She knew that me and my mom, she knew that my aunt and her kids were Christians, but she didn't understand why we were doing this, and it didn't fit the description that she was given as she was growing. And that's why she kept asking my aunt, "Why are you doing this? Like, you don't need to do this." Like, she just didn't understand. And the thing is, like, my grandma, she was totally fine living where she was, and she didn't need any money. She lived out on a farm, and they made good money. They were fine. But my aunt, despite the belief differences, she still wanted to care for her, and she still wanted to be there for her. And John 13:35, a famous verse that we all are aware, says, "By this, all people will know that you are my disciple, if you have love for one another." And I didn't really think of that verse at that time. I just knew that she was really confused. So she just had all these questions about why we were doing this. And I was just like, I was glad, because she didn't know that as Christians, we do those things. As Christians, we show to the world that who we are by the way we care for one another and by the way we treat one another. And on that note, I want to remind some of the older students, if there are any in here, that in this time of crisis, we can show the world who we are by caring for others and finding ways we can help one another, no matter how big or small the mission is. So this might mean to reach out to an old friend or a family member which we haven't spoke to in some time, and just letting them know that you're keeping them in prayer and sharing with them how you are dealing with this whole crisis that's going on. And if you are even willing, you could share with them what the Lord has been doing in your life during this time and how you are able to cope with this. And I know that I am sad I wasn't able to share this and so much more with the whole school during chapel. But as I end this, I really, really recommend those of you who have a story to tell, especially the high schoolers, please, if you are given the opportunity to, please share your story. And I really, really suggest like I said, the upcoming seniors and juniors next year, just share your story with your classmates. It doesn't matter if it's in class or in chapel. just share your story. And it doesn't matter how cool you think or lame you think your story is. It's your story of how God worked in your life, and give God the glory. And that's kind of what I have prepared. So thank you.
Thank you, Sammy, and thank you, Garrett, two of the outstanding young men in the class of 2020. As I was praying about what I would share with you today, I've used this in class for about the last 25 years. Dr. George Sweeting, who's about 95 years old now, he was president at Moody Bible Institute, and then later he became the chancellor of the school. And I don't know that he has anything to do with the school now, but he is still living. He wrote an article called Ultimate Success. So that's what I'd like to talk to you this morning about. He says there are 3 ingredients that everybody's going to need for ultimate success. Number 1 is you're going to need a self to live with. And so the prepositions here are very important. I'm going to need a self I can live with. They tell us during this COVID-19 crisis that we're in, that depression is going out of sight, abuse of children and of wives is going out of sight, drugs for depression, anxiety, they're going out of sight, and people need people around them. Yeah, we can see that more and more. I would say in my classes, I've had very good attendance for the most part in the history class. And there's only one student that has one assignment that he has to make up. Other than that, everybody's got every assignment, even in the history class. But what I have noticed is the attendance is declining. As we go along, part of it is probably a boring teacher, but part of it is too, they're just getting tired of it. We're just getting tired of this. I get tired of it. I have a 9 o'clock class. I have about 4 or 5 students in Bible class that if I don't open the class 15 minutes early, they get irritated with me because they just want to talk. You know, we talk about baseball. Oh, wait a minute, there isn't any of that though now. But we talk about anything, but they just want to talk, see, because people are made to interact with one another. And I need a self that I can live with. Students have heard this before. When I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, I had some reservations about myself. I thought I was too tall. I was about 6'4" then already as a freshman or sophomore. I thought my feet were too big. They were only 13s. Now they're 14 or 15. So they've even grown. I had zits, and I was raised on a dairy farm, and I probably wore the same pair of jeans to school at least 3 days a week, and without having them washed. And I never thought I could quite get the dairy smell off of me when I went to school. So I had some reservations about myself. But as you grow older, you start to see that, you know, I'm all right. God made me exactly like I am. And I'm told to, in Ephesians chapter 5, I'm told to love my wife as I love myself. And Paul goes on to say, no man ever hated his own flesh, but he nourishes and cherishes that flesh. See? And so I can't truly love my wife until I truly like and love myself. So Sweeting says that's one of the things that we're going to have. I need a self I can live with. I have to be able to live with myself. The second requirement, he says, in ultimate success, he says, I need a work that I can live for. What kind of work are you going to live for? I had this advantage. When I was about 7th grade, 2 of my coaches at Manuka, middle school coaches, they were history teachers and they were coaches. So I told my dad, nobody in my family had ever gone to college. Not one person in my family, they'd all been farmers. As far back as I know, they'd been farmers. And I told my dad, I said, I think I want to be a coach. I think I want to go to college. And so I went to college, majored in history, minored in PE. That was kind of a typical major minor for guys that wanted to be coaches. And when I became a Christian then at age 22, the Lord didn't say, hey, you like sports? I'm taking that away from you. You're going to have to do this. The Lord didn't say that at all. He said, all right, you love sports. Now, every time somebody puts a microphone in your face, I want you to try to give me honor for that. You turn the spotlight onto me. In Colossians 1:18, the Lord, Paul says, he said, the Lord wants the preeminence. He wants the spotlight in every one of our lives. I need a work that I can live for. Then about 30 years ago, so when I was 45 years old, I started this business. I started a business of seal coating. It's a dirty job, nasty job, hard work. When it's hot, it's really hard. You start early and quit early. By the way, if any of you need your driveway, need a bid on your driveway, just send me an email and I'll get you all a bid. But I worked with my two sons, with my son-in-law, have a partner. I've worked with about 6 different grandkids over the years. I worked with my stepson for 4 summers. I'm coming up to 4 summers with another grandson this year. And so I keep doing that because I want to spend time with my grandsons. If I called up a grandson and said, hey, would you come over to Illinois? Most of them live in Indiana now. They got away from Illinois taxes. That is a political statement, that is. But they live in Indiana. But if I called them up and said, hey, would you come over and have lunch with me today? And, oh, actually, would you have a lunch with me 6 days a week this summer? And they'd look at me and say, are you out of your mind? No. But if I give them a job and pay them well for seal coating, they'll do that. And we get to spend time, I get to spend time with my grandson. And the Bible says in Psalm 73, I'm supposed to pass on what I know, not only to my kids, but also to my grandkids. And 3 John verse 4 is becoming my favorite verse. It says, I have no greater joy. In other words, there's nothing that you could tell me that would give me more joy or satisfaction in life than for me to hear that my children, my grandchildren, are walking in the truth. 5 years from now, if I'm still around, there'd be nothing that would please me more than to hear that Sammy and Garrett graduated from college and they're going to do something to serve the Lord. Nothing would please me more than that, see. Howard Hendricks, he died just a few years ago. He had taught at Dallas Theological Seminary, I think for around 60 years. Can you imagine that? He said, be involved in life with things that make you cry or pound the table. He says, that's what you ought to be involved in life with. Be involved in life. What kind of work are you going to do? This upcoming year will be my 54th year of teaching. And I coached for 53 years. I'm giving up coaching this year. I named, and the board approved unanimously, and Dr. Epperson approved it too. We named Russell Lanehart to be the next varsity basketball coach, if you haven't seen him. So Russell's a great young guy. He's got a great heart for the Lord too. And he'll use his position to disciple kids, follow Jesus too. I know that. I know what he's like. So I need that work live for. So I got it. What are you going to live for? What are you going to live for in life? And thirdly, the Lord's, or Dr. Sweeting says, he says, you need a faith that you can live by. Both of these young men this morning have clearly told you what their faith is. Their faith is in Jesus Christ. And you can base your life on a lot of idiots out there today that are whether they're Hindus or Muslims or atheists or Buddhists or whatever they are. Remember, Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light, and nobody's going to get to the Father. Nobody's going to get to heaven except through Jesus Christ. Billy Sunday, the former baseball player, Major League Baseball player turned evangelist, he said this. He said, when the final summons comes, in other words, when God's going to call you home, when the final summons comes, make sure you leave more behind you than an epitaph on a tombstone or an obituary in a newspaper. More than that. See, more than that. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Who you can legitimately follow Sammy and Garrett? No, I'm following Jesus right now. I'm following Jesus. What kind of legacy do you want to have someday? Who are you going to follow? I need a faith that I can live by. See? People have said to me, they said, well, if Parkview goes back to school in the fall and you're in that dangerous category, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to school. I said, according to Psalm 139, God knows, he says, the days that are ordained for me, every one was written in his book even before I was born. He knew exactly how many days I was going to live. And every person you're really invincible until God is finished with you, until your ministry is finished. So I'm back in school. I'm not going to wear a mask. And I don't think I'm putting God to the test in doing it. I don't think I'm tempting God. I'm just saying, the Lord, I know that my days are ordained. My days are numbered. Everybody's days are numbered. And I need that kind of faith. I know this in my life, that according to Matthew 12:35, it says, a good man out of the good treasure that he puts in his heart is going to bring forth good things. Make sure the treasure you're putting in your heart is treasure from the Word of God. People that speak, they said one of the best things that happened with this COVID-19 stuff is more and more people, the number of people that are watching, listening to online sermons is skyrocketing. Isn't that a great thing? That is a great thing. More and more people. Maybe this will lead to, David Wilkerson said about 20 years ago, he said, I think, he prophesied this. He said, I think there's going to be some kind of terrible pestilence. And I think out of that pestilence will come the third great revival in America. He said that 20 years ago. And maybe that's going to be the result of all of this. I know this, according to 1 Corinthians 2:9, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither has it even entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for us, for those of us that love him. You won't believe in your life the things that God will do. God has done, according to Ephesians 3:20, exceedingly abundantly more in my life than I could have ever asked or even imagined. That's what he wants to do. He wants to do that in every one of our lives. Hebrews 11:6 says part of it says God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. That's our responsibility. My older son's favorite verse used to be, it's not anymore, but it used to be 2 Chronicles 16:9. It says, the eyes of the Lord move to and fro across the whole earth, seeking to show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are completely his. That's what God wants to do in our lives. He wants to show himself strong. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And he says, I'll take care of all the other stuff. See, I got everything else figured out for you. Our responsibility is to love the Lord seek him with everything that we have. It's just like an athlete. See, an athlete is to be disciplined, be dedicated, all in. See, give it all that you have. When you do that, you're learning some great lessons as far as how to become a solid Christian too. Regarding this faith, my wife and I, she talked me into it. We're putting on a new deck. And so I'm trying to support our local business here. So I'm doing business with the Manuka Lumber and Grain Company. And so this morning, the guy from there, his name is Joe Bloom. He called me like at 7 o'clock. And I didn't answer the phone. And it wasn't because I wasn't up. It's because I'm a part of a men's Bible study at 6:30 on Wednesday mornings. We used to meet at Southern Bell in Yorkville. Now, obviously now it's just a phone. We have a phone and we have a call-in password and that type of thing. So about 12 guys are sitting in their homes and then we just talk. We don't even do Zoom. We just talk. And so I called Joe back then after the meeting was over. I said, "Hey, Joe, I'm sorry. I was up, but I missed you." I said, "Hey, you ought to come to my Bible study. I'll give you the number and the code and everything." "Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so." But see, that's our responsibility. When we have opportunity, and I'm going to keep working on it. I'm going to be dealing with him now for a couple of weeks because he's going to get me the material for my deck. He'll probably bring it out and everything. So I'm going to keep bringing this up. It doesn't cost you anything. I just want you, I'll introduce you. You come into our meeting and I'll introduce you to the guys. I don't believe he's a believer. And so we'll see what his response is. See, but I need some type of faith that I can live by. And then how am I going to use that faith? See, my job is to transmit that faith to whoever, whenever opportunities come. My job is to take that faith and tell people about it. So those three things, ultimate success. I need a self that I can live with, work I can live for, and a faith that I can live by. God bless you today. This is our last chapel. So I pray that every one of you has an unbelievable summer. And I'm praying we have to open in the fall. We have to open. We have to have normal school in the fall. That's my position. God bless you all. I don't know if Mrs. Norris is going to say any more or not. Are you going to say any more, Miss Norris?
Unmute myself. I would like to see if anybody has any prayer requests at this time. If you want to just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Anybody? Go ahead, Mr. Davidson.
I would have people pray for this Joe. His name is Joe Bloom, B-L-O-O-M, that he will respond affirmatively to coming to our Bible study on Wednesday morning. Anybody else, by the way, would like to do that? It's not just men from our church. I think we have about a half dozen churches represented in our 6 men. If you would like to come to that study, just send me an email and I'll give you the password and everything to get in. 6:30 Wednesday morning. It's a great Bible study. Joe Bloom.
All right, Joe Bloom. We're going to remember that. Do I see a hand? Jovi, is that your hand? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
My friend's going on a trip to Wyoming this summer, so I just pray that he's going to be safe.
Okay, safe travels. Anybody else? Make sure I can see everybody here. Rhonda, yeah, I see you. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Hey, just pray for Jackson. He's not doing very well right now, and he did want to speak today, but he is not doing very well. So he will need some prayer to get better.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda. Anybody else? Just so everybody knows, this video. I recorded it. It will be on the Parkview YouTube channel after this chapel service. So I'll send it out to all the families and post it so everybody can hear the message. If there's no other prayer request, Mr. Davidson, would you like to close us in prayer?
Yes, I'll pray. Father, we're grateful now for this opportunity that we have to do this distance e-learning for these last 8 or 9 weeks. And I pray that kids would be faithful and getting finished with their assignments. And I pray for these specific requests today too. I pray for Jackson File today, that you would help him to restore him, get him back to good health. And I pray that you would bless him. I pray for Jovi's friend in this trip to Wyoming, that you provide safety there also. And I pray for this, I just met this guy in the last week or so, and from Manuka Lumber, for Joe Bloom. And so I pray that Joe would respond now as I talk to him about just, it's very non-threatening to just be on a conference call and be on a Bible study. So I pray that he would respond to that as I keep and give me wisdom as to how much I should bother him with that. So I just pray that you'd help me to be a strong witness to him. I pray that you would bless us now throughout the summer, that you would use each one of us in the lives of somebody else, as Garrett and Sammy both said. I think they both said something like this, that we ought to look for opportunities to serve. Christians are to be known by the love that we have for one another as well as for other people. So help us to find opportunities to serve others, to be a strong witness for Jesus Christ. In your name I pray.
Amen. All right, I unmuted everybody if you want to say goodbye. Bye.
Thank you, Miss
Bye.
Sammy and Garrett.
Rhonda, Ruth,
Sammy.
Elijah,
Thanks, everybody.
Jovi.
Good job.
Thank you, Sammy.
Bye, guys. Bye, Sammy. Thank you. Bye, Garrett.
Penny Creek.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Very good, Sam. Appreciated your words.
It was
Thank you,
great.
Coach. Thank you.
Garrett, appreciated your words.
We appreciate your words, Mr. Davidson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Inspiration to us.
God bless you all.